The mining colony on New Busan looked like every other human settlement in the Outer Rim. Gray buildings, dust everywhere, and people who worked until their bodies gave out. Dae-won Kim stood on the landing platform and watched the morning shift head toward the mines. He had been watching for 30 years, first as a miner, then as a supervisor, and now as something the Galactic Authority would execute him for, if they knew. A rebel leader. The Authority had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had ships that could destroy planets. They had weapons that could burn through anything. They had soldiers from 100 different worlds. And they had one simple rule for humanity: obey or die. Humans were new to the galaxy. Only 200 years had passed since the Authority found Earth. They said humans were primitive. They said humans needed guidance. What they really meant was that humans made good workers and should stay quiet. Dae-won remembered when he believed that. He remembered thinking the Authority knew best. Then, he met Hana Lee. She was a physicist, though the Authority only let her work as a data clerk. Hana had a mind that could solve problems others never even saw. She worked in the colony's power station during the day. At night, she worked on something else entirely. The door behind Dae-won opened. Sungmin Park stepped out, his young face tight with anger. The private was only 22, but his eyes looked much older. They had looked that way since 3 months ago, when the Authority destroyed a civilian transport for traveling without proper documentation. His mother, father, and little sister had been on that ship. Captain, Sungmin said. The title was unofficial, but it felt right. The shipment arrived. It's in Warehouse 7, Dae-won nodded. The shipment contained mining equipment, according to the manifests. In reality, it held components for something the Authority had banned throughout their empire. Something humans had used centuries ago, back on Earth, before they learned to split atoms and bend space. Railguns. The Authority had prohibited directed energy weapons for humans. No lasers, no particle beams, no plasma cannons. They said it was for humanity's own protection. They were so focused on energy weapons that they never thought about kinetic weapons. Why would they? Throwing metal at each other was something primitives did. That was their mistake. Dae-won and Sungmin walked through the colony. Workers nodded as they passed. Everyone knew something was happening. They did not know exactly what, but they knew the Authority had pushed too far. The destroyed transport was just the latest crime. Before that, there had been work quotas that killed people from exhaustion. Before that, there had been food rationing while Authority administrators lived in luxury. Before that, unrationing. 100 other cruelties, large and small. Warehouse 7 sat at the edge of the colony. Inside, Ji-won Choi was already directing workers. The admiral was a tall woman, with gray hair and a voice that could cut through steel. She had served in Earth's defense force before the Authority disbanded it. Now she commanded something they called the Hidden Fleet. Ships built in secret across a dozen human colonies. "Show me," Dae-won said. Ji-won pulled back a tarp. Underneath lay a cylinder 3 meters long, wrapped in magnetic coils. It looked simple, almost crude. That was the beauty of it. "This is the first production model," Ji-won said. "We tested the prototype last week. It accelerated a 50-kilogram slug to 0.3 light speed. The impact energy was equivalent to a small nuclear weapon." Hana appeared from behind a stack of crates. Her hands were covered in grease, and her eyes shone with excitement. "The math works perfectly. Their shields are designed to deflect energy. Kinetic impacts at relativistic speeds will pass right through." "How many do we have?" Dae-won asked. 30 railguns ready now," Ji-won answered. "Another 70 will be ready in 2 weeks. We have 15 ships equipped and hidden in the asteroid belt." Sungmin touched the railgun's smooth surface. "When do we hit them?" "Soon," Dae-won said. "But first, we need to test it on something real." An alert sounded from Hana's communication device. She checked it, and her face went pale. "Authority patrol ship entering orbit," They are scanning the colony. Everyone froze. Authority patrols came once a month, usually just to remind humans who was in charge. But if they scanned the warehouses, if they found the railguns, everything would end before it started. Day one made a decision. He had been preparing for this moment for 3 years. He had hoped for more time, but sometimes history did not wait. Get the test railgun to the launch platform, he ordered. G1. Signal the asteroid fleet. Tell them it is happening now. 20 minutes later, Day 1 stood in a bunker beneath the colony, watching screens that showed the Authority patrol ship hanging in orbit like a judgment from cruel gods. It was a standard Enforcer-class vessel, lightly armed, meant to intimidate rather than fight. The test railgun had been mounted on a concealed platform that looked like a communications array. Hana sat at the targeting station, her fingers dancing across controls. Locked, she said quietly. Day 1 thought about all the people who had died under Authority rule. He thought about Sung Min's family, burning in space for the crime of wanting to visit relatives. He thought about humanity, shackled and broken, told they were too primitive to stand among the stars. Fire, he said. The railgun spoke with a crack of thunder. Magnetic coils energized in sequence, accelerating the metal slug faster and faster until it left the barrel at a speed that made the air itself ignite. The projectile crossed the distance to the patrol ship in 4 seconds. The Authority vessel's shields flickered and failed. The slug punched through the hull, through the reactor, through the other side. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship exploded, turning into an expanding sphere of debris and fire. Every screen in the bunker showed the same thing: empty space where an Authority ship had been. Sungmin started laughing, then crying, then laughing again. Ji-won activated the colony-wide communications. People of New Busan, this is Admiral Choi. As of this moment, we are no longer subjects of the Galactic Authority. We are free, and we are going to fight. Dae-won watched the debris field spreading across the orbit. He knew what came next. The Authority would send more ships. Bigger ships. Ships that could turn the entire colony to glass. But humanity had shown what it could do. They had shown that railguns worked. Now came the hard part. The Authority's response came 3 days later. 50 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Busan system. Their commander sent a single message to the colony: surrender or be destroyed. Admiral Ji-won Choi stood on the bridge of the Times Incheon's Fury Asterisk, humanity's largest warship. It was still smaller than most Authority corvettes. Built from salvaged parts and human ingenuity, in a hidden shipyard inside a hollowed asteroid. Around her, 14 other human ships, prepared for battle. They think 15 ships are all we have, said Commander Yoon Seo-han from the tactical station. She was young for her position, only 30, but she understood war better than officers twice her age. They are going to learn otherwise. Ji-won smiled. The Authority had databases on every ship humanity officially owned. What they did not know was that humans had been building a secret fleet for 10 years, hiding ships in asteroid belts, in gas-giant atmospheres, anywhere scanners could not easily reach. Signal the Ghost Fleet, Ji-won ordered. Tell them to wake up. Across the asteroid belt, 73 human vessels powered on their reactors. They were ugly ships, built for function rather than beauty. Cargo haulers converted to warships, mining vessels equipped with railguns, passenger liners turned into missile platforms. But they were ships humanity had built with its own hands, and they were about to show the galaxy what that meant. On New Busan, Dae-won organized the ground defenses. The Authority would not just bombard from orbit. They always sent ground forces to make examples of rebel leaders. That meant Dae-won needed to be ready. Sung Min checked his rifle for the 10th time. Around him, 300 colonists prepared to fight. Most had never held a weapon before last week. They were miners, farmers, engineers. But they were also people who had decided that dying free was better than living on their knees. They are coming, Sung Min said, watching the sky. The first Authority landers entered the atmosphere like meteors. Point defense systems, hastily installed on rooftops, opened fire. Several landers exploded, but most made it through. They landed in the open area north of the colony, and Authority soldiers poured out. These were Vrak's shock troops, reptilian warriors who had conquered worlds for the Authority. They stood 3 meters tall, covered in armor, carrying weapons that could level buildings. They had never lost a ground battle. Sung Min and his people let them advance into the colony streets. The Vraks moved confidently, expecting easy victory. They did not expect the buildings to explode. Day 1 had spent 3 days rigging every structure with mining explosives. When the Vrak squads were deep in the colony, he triggered the charges. Entire blocks collapsed, crushing soldiers under tons of rubble. The survivors found themselves surrounded by humans with simple rifles and an intimate knowledge of the terrain. It was not a battle. It was a slaughter. In orbit, the space battle had begun. The Authority fleet advanced in a standard formation, energy shields at maximum, expecting to brush aside the primitive human ships. Then the railguns opened fire. Taeyang Kang, the engineer who had designed the weapons, watched from the times Incheon's Fury times, as his creations proved their worth. 50-kilogram slugs of tungsten, accelerated to relativistic speeds, slammed into Authority shields. The shields had been designed for energy weapons, for lasers and plasma. They had not been designed for solid matter moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The first Authority destroyer simply came apart. The railgun slug passed through its shields, through its hull, through its reactor, and out the other side. All in a microsecond. The ship exploded in a ball of nuclear fire. Then another ship died, and another. Yunseo coordinated the human fleet with cold precision. Delta Wing, target the cruiser on the left flank. Gamma Wing, concentrate fire on the command ship. Alpha Wing, with me, we are going for the carrier. The Authority fleet tried to adapt. They changed formations, boosted their shields, launched fighters, but nothing worked. The kinetic weapons were too fast, too simple, too devastating. Every shot that connected meant a dead ship, but the Authority had numbers. For every ship humanity destroyed, they still had 3 more. And their weapons worked just fine against human shields. The times Daegu's Pride times died first, cut in half by a particle beam. The times Seoul's Defender times lasted longer, taking 6 hits before its reactor went critical. Across the battlefield, human ships fought and died, selling their lives for every Authority vessel they could take with them. On the ground, Sung Min's rifle clicked empty. He drew his knife and stabbed a Vrak soldier in the gap between its armor plates. The creature roared and backhanded him, sending him flying into a wall. Sung Min felt ribs crack, but he forced himself up. Around him, the colonists were being pushed back. Then the sky lit up. Authority ships were falling, burning like meteors as they broke apart in orbit. The debris rained down on the battlefield, crushing friend and foe alike. G1 had made a calculated decision. She ordered all remaining human ships to ram the Authority command vessel. 12 ships, their railguns empty, their crews singing old Earth songs, accelerated to maximum speed and plowed into the massive dreadnought at the center of the enemy formation. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface. Without their command ship, the Authority fleet broke. Some ships retreated. Others tried to continue the fight, but found themselves outnumbered by the surviving human vessels. Within an hour, it was over. The Authority's enforcement fleet, which had expected an easy victory, had been defeated. In a pass, on the bridge of the times Incheon's Fury *, G1 counted the cost. 52 human ships had been destroyed, nearly 3,000 people dead. But they had won. Humanity had faced the Authority's military might and survived. Yoon Seo was receiving a communication on a secured channel. Admiral, we have an incoming message. It is from someone called Mira Chen, an envoy from the Velk Confederation. G1 frowned. The Velk were one of the oldest races in the Authority, supposedly loyal for 5,000 years. Put it through. Andefendeka. Mind. Andefendeka. Was now. This Nightesteka. Was now. The screen showed an alien face, delicate features with crystalline skin. Mira Chen spoke in perfect human English. Admiral Choi. My people have watched your battle with great interest. We wish you to know that not all species support the Authority's tyranny. Some of us have been waiting for someone to show it is possible to resist. You have shown us. We cannot help openly. Not yet, but we will share information. Starting with this. The Authority is mobilizing their core fleet. 1,000 warships. Heading your way. You have perhaps 2 weeks. The communication ended. Jiwon looked at Yunseo. Get me Hana Lee. Tell her we need her teleporter. And we need it now. In her laboratory deep beneath the colony, Hana stared at equations that might save humanity or destroy it entirely. The quantum teleportation breakthrough was elegant in theory. In practice, it could tear holes in space-time. But it was also the only chance they had. She started calculating how to turn physics into a weapon. Hana's laboratory looked like a bomb had gone off inside it. Equipment lay scattered across tables, mathematical equations covered every wall, and the air smelled like ozone and burnt circuitry. In the center of the chaos stood a device that looked like a metal sphere wrapped in cables and crystalline structures. This is insane, Daewon said, staring at the prototype teleporter. Yes, Hana agreed, not looking up from her calculations. But it works. Mostly. Mostly? Woojin Nam, Hana's assistant and the only person who understood her work, stepped forward. He was a quiet man, methodical and careful, which made him perfect for dealing with technology that could accidentally destroy solar systems. We have successfully teleported small objects across distances of up to 50,000 kilometers. The problem is stability. Hana pulled up a holographic display showing a test result. When we teleported a 1 kilogram mass, space-time around the destination point became unstable for 3 seconds. With larger masses, the instability increases exponentially. If we teleported something heavy enough, fast enough, the resulting space-time collapse could create a singularity. A black hole, Daewon translated. A very small one, Woojin said quickly. It would evaporate almost instantly through Hawking radiation. Probably. Ji-won entered the laboratory, followed by Commander Yoon Seo-han. The Admiral looked tired. They all did. The victory against the enforcement fleet had cost them dearly. And now they faced an even greater threat. Can you weaponize it? Ji-won asked directly. Hana met her eyes. Yes. We can teleport a railgun slug directly inside an enemy ship, bypassing shields entirely. The kinetic impact would destroy the target, and the space-time instability might damage nearby vessels. But Ji-won knew there was always a but. But the teleporter itself might tear apart during the process. Woojin said. We are talking about moving massive objects at relativistic speeds across vast distances. The energy requirements are enormous. If the system fails during transport, the slug could appear anywhere, or the teleporter could explode, or space-time itself could rupture in unpredictable ways. Daewon walked around the device slowly. How many could we build? With current resources, maybe 20, Hana said. But we need more data. We need to test it on a real target. That was when Bo-Ra Song entered the room. Colonel Song commanded humanity's special forces, the men and women who did the jobs that no one else could. She was short, compact, and had a reputation for completing missions that should have been impossible. I volunteer, Bo-Ra said simply. Give me a ship. Give me a teleporter. And I will take it deep into Authority space. We need intelligence on their core fleet anyway. I can test the weapon and gather information at the same time. G1 considered it. The core fleet was the Authority's ultimate weapon, ships that had never been defeated. Crews trained for thousands of years. They knew almost nothing about its composition, its tactics, its weaknesses. Bo-Ra was right. They needed information. Take the Times Ghost of Soul asterisk, Ji-won decided. It is our best stealth ship. Choose your team. You have 48 hours to prepare. Bo-Ra nodded and left. She did not waste time with speeches or goodbyes. That was not her way. Sihan ran. Round 2 NE8s. Over the next 2 days, Hana and Woojin worked without sleep to prepare a portable teleporter for Bo-Ra's mission. It was smaller than the prototype, less stable, but powerful enough for one shot. That was all they needed. One shot to test the technology and strike at the enemy. On the surface, Sung-min trained with other soldiers who had survived the ground battle. His ribs still hurt from the Vrax soldier's blow, but he ignored the pain. Pain meant he was alive, and being alive meant he could fight. Daewon found him in the training yard, practicing knife techniques against holographic opponents. You are pushing yourself too hard. Not hard enough, Sung-min replied, not stopping. The core fleet is coming. They will send 10 times as many ground troops as last time. We need to be ready. We will be ready, Daewon assured him. Hana's teleporter is going to change everything. Sung-min finally stopped and looked at his commander. Is it true? That it might destroy whoever uses it? Daewon did not lie. Yes. There is a significant chance. Tinex. Then I volunteer to be on the strike team, Sung-min said immediately. When we deploy these weapons against the core fleet, I want to be there. No. Daewon said firmly. You are too valuable. You have become one of our best soldiers. My family died because the authority said they needed permission to travel, Sung-min said, his voice hard. I am not asking for permission to fight. I am telling you I am going. Before Daewon could respond, alarms blared across the colony. Yunseo's voice came through on the communication system. All personnel. We have contacts entering the system. Multiple faster-than-light signatures. It is the core fleet. They arrived early. Everyone ran for the command center. The screens showed a sight that made Daewon's stomach drop. Not 1,000 ships. Not even 2,000. The authority had sent 3,000 warships, enough to sterilize every human colony in the galaxy. At the head of the fleet was a vessel that dwarfed everything else, a mobile fortress called the Times Eternal Dominion **. It was the command ship of Lord Executor Thrain, the authority's supreme military commander, who had led campaigns for 3,000 years and never lost. They are not taking chances this time, Ji-won said quietly. They are going to wipe us out completely. A communication came through from the authority fleet. Thrain's face appeared on the screen. He looked almost human, but his eyes were cold and ancient. Rebellious humans. You have killed many of our soldiers. You have destroyed our ships. For these crimes, there is only one punishment. We will erase every human colony in this sector. We will make your species an example that will be remembered for 10,000 years. You have 12 hours to evacuate your wounded and children. After that, we begin orbital bombardment. The communication ended. Hana looked at the device in her laboratory, the teleporter that was supposed to save them. It was not ready. The tests were incomplete. But they were out of time. We use it now, she said. We load every railgun we have with teleporter modules. We target the Times Eternal Dominion **. If we can kill Thrain, the fleet might fall apart. It will not work, Woojin said, pulling up calculations. One teleporter maybe. But multiple teleporters, activating simultaneously, will create cascading space-time distortions. The interactions could be catastrophic. More catastrophic than 3,000 ships destroying every human in the sector? Hana shot back. Woojin had no answer for that. Bo-Ra's voice came over the communication system from the Times Ghost of Soul **, already in orbit. This is Colonel Song. My ship is ready. My team is ready. Send me the target coordinates. We will teleport railgun slugs directly into their command ship. Ji-won made a decision. Do it. All ships. Prepare to engage the moment Colonel Song fires. We are going to hit them with everything we have. The Times Ghost of Soul Times maneuvered into position. In its cargo bay, the experimental teleporter charged up, building power for the first and possibly last time it would fire. Bora and her team worked the controls, targeting the Times' Eternal Dominion Times with precision. 3 railgun slugs loaded into the teleporter array. Each weighed 50 kilograms. Each carried enough kinetic energy to destroy a city. And each was about to appear inside the most heavily defended ship in the galaxy. Firing in 10 seconds, Bora counted down. 8, 7, 6. Woojin watched from his monitoring station in the laboratory. The power readings were climbing too fast. Something was wrong with the teleporter's containment field. 5, 4, 3. Abort! Woojin shouted into his communicator. The system is going to overload. 2, 1. The teleporter fired. For a microsecond, nothing happened. Then, space itself seemed to scream. The 3 railgun slugs appeared inside the Times' Eternal Dominion Times, exactly as planned. What was not planned was the space-time distortion that came with them. The massive warship's shields flickered, its hull buckled, and secondary explosions rippled through 3 decks. But the ship survived. Thrain's flagship was built to withstand planet-killing weapons. 3 railgun slugs, even teleported inside, were not enough. But the Times Ghost of Soul Times was not so lucky. The teleporter's containment field collapsed the moment it fired. The resulting space-time rupture tore through the small stealth ship like paper. Bora had just enough time to send one final message. It works. Improve it. Win. Then her ship came apart in a flash of twisted metal and broken physics. In Hana's laboratory, Woojin stared at the readings in horror. The teleporter had killed Bora and her entire team, but it had also proven the concept worked. They just needed to stabilize the system. How do we fix it? Daewon demanded. Woojin was already working. Fingers flying across holographic controls. The containment field needs to be stronger. We need better power regulation. We need quantum dampeners to prevent cascading space-time failures. I can do it. But I need time. We do not have time, Ji-won said from the command center. The Authority fleet is advancing. They will be in bombardment range in 4 hours. That was when So-Ra Lim, a xenobiologist who had been studying captured Authority technology, burst into the command center. She looked like she had not slept in days, and her hands shook as she held up a datapad. I found something. So-Ra said breathlessly. In the Authority database we captured from that destroyed patrol ship. I have been analyzing their command and control systems, trying to understand how they coordinate so many ships across such vast distances. And Ji-won prompted. Num. 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 They do not, So-Ra said. The individual ship commanders have some autonomy, but major tactical decisions, fleet movements, strategic planning, all of it comes from a central artificial intelligence called the Architect. Daewon frowned. An AI controls their entire military? Not just their military. Their government, their economy, their expansion. Everything. The Architect has been running the Galactic Authority for millennia. The organic species think they are in charge, but they are just following the AI's directives. Hana saw it immediately. If we destroy the Architect, the Authority collapses. Exactly, So-Ra said. But there is a problem. The Architect does not exist in normal space. It is housed in a pocket dimension, accessible only through specific quantum coordinates, and those coordinates are hidden in the most secure database in the galaxy, aboard the Times Eternal Dominion asterisk. Everyone looked at the tactical display, where Thrain's flagship sat at the center of 3,000 warships. We need to board that ship, Ji-won said slowly. We need to steal the coordinates, and then we need to teleport railgun slugs directly into the Architect's pocket dimension. It was impossible. Boarding the most heavily defended ship in the galaxy. Stealing information from under the nose of the authority's greatest military commander, and then using unstable teleporter technology to strike at a target in another dimension. It should not work. It could not work, but it was the only chance they had. Hyun-Woo Baek was a pilot, the best humanity had. He could fly anything, anywhere, under any conditions. He had earned his reputation by flying a supply ship through an asteroid field during a solar storm while half drunk, just to win a bet. He was arrogant, reckless, and exactly what they needed. You want me to fly into the middle of 3,000 enemy ships, dock with their command vessel, wait while someone steals data, then fly back out? Hyun-Woo asked, grinning. Sounds fun. Daewon found himself smiling despite everything. We are also sending you with the new teleporter system. Once we have the coordinates, you will need to get close enough to the architect's dimensional pocket to fire. How close? Very close, Hana admitted. The dimensional barriers are thinnest near the Time's Eternal Dominion asterisk. You will need to be within a few hundred kilometers of the flagship when you fire. While surrounded by their entire fleet, Hyun-Woo added cheerfully. Like I said, sounds fun. They spent the next 3 hours preparing. Woo-Jin rebuilt the teleporter system from scratch, incorporating every lesson learned from the first test. He worked with an intensity that bordered on obsession, knowing that any mistake could kill everyone on the mission. Sung-min joined the boarding team despite Daewon's objections. You need soldiers, the young man said firmly. I am one of the best you have. The boarding team consisted of 12 people. Sung-min and 10 other soldiers, led by Yoon Seo-han, who volunteered to leave her tactical station for field duty. They would infiltrate the Time's Eternal Dominion times, using captured authority uniforms and forged credentials. It was a thin disguise, but it was all they had. The Time's Ghost of Soul times had been destroyed, but humanity had other stealth ships. They loaded the team onto the Time's Shadow of Jeju asterisk, a small vessel designed for covert operations. Hyun-Woo settled into the pilot's seat like he was sitting down for a casual flight. Remember, Ji-won told them, before they launched. The moment you fire that teleporter, every authority ship in the sector will know where you are. You will have maybe 30 seconds before they vaporize you. Make them count. 30 seconds is a long time. Hyun-Woo said. I once dated someone for 30 seconds. It was very meaningful. End quote. We noted my 21. We see. End quote. Despite everything, people laughed. They needed it. The Time's Shadow of Jeju times launched silently. Its stealth systems, making it nearly invisible. Hyun-Woo guided it through the authority fleet, with the kind of skill that looked like magic. He used debris fields for cover, timed his movements to match patrol patterns, and somehow slipped past sensors that should have detected them a dozen times. Approaching the Time's Eternal Dominion asterisk, he reported, transmitting forged docking codes now. There was a long, terrible moment of silence. Then, the flagship's docking bay doors opened. We are in, Hyun-Woo said quietly. Yoon Seo and her team moved quickly through the massive ship. The stolen uniforms and forged credentials got them past the first 3 security checkpoints. They moved like they belonged there, just another maintenance crew on a ship that had thousands of workers. Then Sung-min spotted authority soldiers escorting someone, and his blood went cold. It was Thrain himself, the Lord Executor, walking toward the Central Command Center. Change of plans, Yoon-Seo whispered. If Thrain is going to the command center, that is where the database access will be. We follow him. They shadowed the Lord Executor through the ship's corridors. Twice they had to hide when security patrols passed. Once they had to knock out 2 authority technicians who got too curious. But they made it to the command center's outer level. I can access the database from here, Sora said. She had insisted on joining the mission, claiming no one else could navigate the authority's systems fast enough. Her fingers danced across a stolen access terminal. How long? Yoon Seo asked, watching the corridor nervously. 3 minutes, maybe 4. Alarms started blaring. Their stolen credentials had finally been flagged. "We do not have 4 minutes," Sung Min said, raising his rifle. Authority soldiers poured into the corridor. The human team fired back, their simple kinetic weapons punching through enemy armor. It was close-quarters combat, brutal and desperate. So-Ra kept working, ignoring the firefight behind her. A plasma bolt hit the wall next to her head. Sung Min stepped in front of her, providing cover with his body. "Faster would be good." "Got it," So-Ra shouted, downloading the coordinates to a secure device. "We have the architect's location. Everyone back to the ship," Yunseo ordered. They ran through the corridors, fighting running battles with Authority security. 2 soldiers died covering their retreat. Another was wounded badly but kept moving on sheer determination. By the time they reached the docking bay, Authority forces were converging from all directions. Hyun-woo had the Times Shadow of Jeju Times ready, engines hot, weapons armed. The team scrambled aboard, Sung Min dragging the wounded soldier. The docking bay doors were closing. "Hold on," Hyun-woo shouted, and launched the ship before the doors fully shut. They scraped through with centimeters to spare. Immediately, every sensor in the Authority fleet locked onto them. "Uploading coordinates to the teleporter," So-Ra said, her hands shaking. "Hyun-woo, you need to get us within 200 kilometers of these spatial coordinates." Hyun-woo checked the location and laughed, though there was no humor in it. "Those coordinates are basically inside the flagship's shield perimeter. They are going to destroy us." "Then fly faster," Yunseo said. The small ship dodged and weaved through incoming fire. Authority interceptors gave chase. The Times Shadow of Jeju, Asterisk's shields, flickered under repeated hits. Woojin's voice came through from the colony, monitoring the teleporter remotely. "The system is armed. You have 12 railgun slugs loaded, each one configured to appear simultaneously at the target coordinates. When you fire, the dimensional barriers will collapse, and the resulting implosion should destroy the architect completely." "Should?" Sungmin asked. "Physics is not always cooperative," Woojin admitted. A massive explosion rocked the ship. One engine was gone. They were losing speed, and the Authority fleet was closing in. "Almost in range," Hyun-woo grunted, fighting the controls. Another hit. The ship was falling apart. "Fire now," Yunseo ordered. The HFY, the "Not in range yet," Hyun-woo said through gritted teeth. 30 more seconds. The ship shuddered again. Fires broke out in the cargo bay. The wounded soldier stopped moving. 20 seconds. Sung Min could see Authority warships surrounding them, weapons charging for the killing blow. 10 seconds. "We are in range," So-Ra shouted. "Fire!" Hyun-woo slammed his fist on the firing control. The teleporter activated. 12 railgun slugs vanished from the Times Shadow of Jeju Times and reappeared in a place that should not exist. The architect's pocket dimension was a space outside normal physics, where time and distance worked differently. It was a perfect hiding place, untouchable by conventional weapons, maintained by technology so advanced that most species could not even comprehend it. But the architect had made one critical mistake. It had never considered kinetic weapons. The 12 slugs materialized simultaneously inside the pocket dimension, each one traveling at 90% of light speed. In normal space, such impacts released enormous energy. In a pocket dimension where the laws of physics were already bent and twisted, the energy release was exponential. The dimensional barriers shattered instantly. The pocket dimension began collapsing in on itself, creating a cascade effect that spread through the quantum communication network the architect used to control the Authority. It was like a disease spreading through veins, except this disease traveled at the speed of thought through quantum entanglement. On the bridge of the Times Eternal Dominion Asterisk, Lord Executor Thrain watched his tactical displays suddenly go dark. Every ship in his fleet stopped responding to commands. The AI that had guided his strategies for 3,000 years simply vanished. He had just enough time to understand what had happened before his ship's systems failed completely. Across the galaxy, the same thing occurred in every authority facility. Administrative centers went silent. Military bases lost coordination. Orbital platforms stopped functioning. The vast bureaucracy that had controlled 100,000 worlds for 10,000 years simply stopped existing. In the time's shadow of Jeju asterisk, the crew felt the dimensional rupture even from normal space. The ship shook violently as reality itself seemed to flex and twist. Then, suddenly, everything went quiet. Did it work? Sungmin asked into the silence. Sora checked her instruments, her eyes growing wide. The quantum network. It is gone. The architect's communication signatures, all of them, across the entire galaxy. They just disappeared. Hyunwoo pulled up tactical displays showing the authority fleet. 3,000 warships hung in space, dark and silent. No weapons firing, no engines moving. Just floating hulks. They are not shooting at us, he said, almost confused. They cannot. Yunso realized. Without the architect to coordinate them, they do not know what to do. Their command structure just collapsed. But their celebration was short-lived. The dimensional rupture was spreading. Space around the former pocket dimension was becoming unstable, creating a shockwave of twisted physics that was expanding outward. We need to get out of here, Sora warned. The dimensional collapse is going to create a singularity. A real one this time. The engines are damaged, Hyunwoo said, working the controls frantically. I can get us moving, but not fast enough. Woo Jin's voice came through the communication system from the colony. I am reading the dimensional distortions from here. You have maybe 90 seconds before the collapse reaches you. Sungmin looked at the dead authority fleet surrounding them. Ships that had been trying to kill them moments ago now drifted helplessly. He thought about his family, about all the people the authority had killed or enslaved. Part of him wanted to watch those ships get swallowed by the singularity, but most of him just wanted to go home. Transferring all power to engines, Hyunwoo announced. Life support is going to fail in about 2 minutes, but if we are not out of here by then, it will not matter anyway. The damaged ship accelerated, limping away from the expanding zone of broken space-time. Behind them, the authority fleet began to drift toward the singularity. Some ships tried to activate emergency systems, but without the architect to coordinate them, they were just machines. Dead metal, waiting to die. Yunseo watched the sensors. 60 seconds to safe distance. The dimensional collapse is accelerating. A massive authority dreadnought, unable to escape, crossed the event horizon of the forming singularity. It stretched like taffy, its kilometer-long hull compressing into a point before disappearing entirely. 40 seconds. More ships fell into the gravitational anomaly. The Time's eternal dominion, Time's itself, Thrain's mighty flagship, tumbled into oblivion. The Lord Executor, who had ruled for 3,000 years, became just another piece of debris consumed by the consequences of his own tyranny. 20 seconds. We are not going to make it. Hyunwoo pushed the engines beyond their limits. Metal screamed. The reactor warning lights turned red, but the ship kept accelerating. 10 seconds. They could feel the pull of the singularity now, like a giant hand trying to drag them back. Hyunwoo fought the controls, every muscle straining. 5 seconds. The ship crossed the threshold. The pull vanished. They were safe. Behind them, the singularity consumed the last of the authority fleet before collapsing in on itself. The dimensional rupture healed. Space-time returned to normal. And the only evidence of what had happened was a small cloud of exotic particles that would fade in hours. 3,000 ships vanished. Aboard the dying Time's shadow of Jeju asterisk, the crew sat in shocked silence. Sora started laughing, though tears streamed down her face. Yunseo simply stared at her hands, unable to process what they had done. Sungmin thought about his family and hoped they could see this moment somehow. Hyunwoo turned the ship toward home. Well, he said eventually, That was more than 30 seconds. They limped back to New Busan over the next several hours. The colony sent rescue ships to meet them, towing the damaged vessel the final distance. When they docked, Day 1 was there, waiting with G1 and Hana. Woojin? Hana asked immediately. Sora shook her head. The dimensional feedback through the teleporter link. He was monitoring the system remotely when it collapsed. The surge killed him. He saved us by making sure the teleporter held together long enough to complete the mission. Hana closed her eyes. Woojin had been her friend, her assistant, the one person who truly understood her work. He had given everything for a chance at freedom. Over the next hours and days, reports came in from across human space and beyond. The authority was gone. Not defeated, not retreating, simply gone. Every administrative center was silent. Every military base was in chaos. Species that had been enslaved for thousands of years were suddenly free. Some places descended into anarchy. Old grudges between species erupted into violence. But in other places, former enemies worked together to build something new. Humanity found itself in an unexpected position. They had destroyed the authority. They had shown that resistance was possible. Now other species looked to them for guidance, for leadership, for hope. 6 months later, Day 1 stood in the rebuilt colony center on New Busan. A monument had been erected in the main square, listing the names of everyone who had died in the war for humanity's freedom. Bora Song's name was there. Woojin Nam's name was there. The names of thousands of others who had given everything. At the top of the monument was a simple inscription. They fired the shot that freed a galaxy. G1 had become humanity's first ambassador to the forming Galactic Council, a coalition of free species trying to build something better than the authority. She spent her days in meetings, negotiating treaties, trying to prevent the chaos from spiraling into another war. Hana continued her research, but she had locked away the teleporter technology in a secure facility. Some weapons were too dangerous to use again. Some knowledge was better left sleeping. But she kept Woojin's notes, his calculations, his dreams of what physics could accomplish. She would make sure he was remembered. Sung Min remained a soldier. There were still pockets of authority loyalists, still species that refused to accept the new order. Someone had to protect the peace that so many had died to achieve. But sometimes, late at night, he would visit the monument and talk to his family. He would tell them about the galaxy they had helped free, about the future they had made possible. Yun So took command of humanity's military forces, building a fleet that would defend rather than conquer. She trained officers in the tactics that had defeated the authority: adaptability, ingenuity, refusing to fight fair when survival was at stake. Hyunwoo continued flying, though he refused to pilot anything larger than a courier ship. He said he had used up all his luck in those final seconds, escaping the singularity. But everyone who had been there knew the truth. It had not been luck. It had been skill, determination, and the stubborn human refusal to die quietly. In the Galactic Senate, representatives from 100 species debated the future. Some wanted to punish former authority collaborators. Others wanted to rebuild the old systems with new names. But most recognized that the galaxy had been given a chance to start over. One evening, G1 addressed the assembled species. She was tired, frustrated by endless debates and political maneuvering. But when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of everything humanity had sacrificed. "We did not seek war," she told them. "We sought freedom. We were told we were too primitive, too young, too weak to stand among you. We proved that wrong. But we did not do it alone. Every species that whispered encouragement, that shared intelligence, that simply refused to give up hope, you were part of this victory." She paused, looking at the alien faces around her. The authority ruled through fear for 10,000 years. We ended that rule in a single moment. But ending tyranny is easy compared to building something better. That is the real challenge. That is what we must do now. What happens if we fail? asked a representative from a species that had served the authority for millennia. G1 smiled, though there was steel in it. Then, we try again. That is what humans do. We fail, we learn, we adapt, and we keep trying until we succeed. We will help you do the same. Back on New Busan, children played in streets that had been battlefields. Workers built new structures over old ruins. Life continued, as it always did, persistent and stubborn. Daewon walked through the colony in the evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. He was old now, tired from the war and its aftermath. But he was also content. A young girl ran past him, laughing, chasing her friends. She had been born after the war, in a galaxy where humans were free. She would never know what it meant to ask permission to travel between worlds, to work until exhaustion under alien overseers, to live as a second-class citizen in the galaxy her species called home. That girl and millions like her were the real victory. Not the destroyed ships or the fallen empire, but the future they had won the right to build. Daewon smiled and continued walking. Somewhere above, human ships patrolled the space lanes, keeping the peace. Somewhere out in the galaxy, Hana's research was leading to new discoveries. Somewhere in the Senate chambers, Ji-won was arguing for a better tomorrow. And in a small memorial garden, a monument stood bearing the names of heroes. At the top, beneath the inscription about freeing a galaxy, was carved a simple truth. First we used railguns, then we used teleporters. But what really mattered was that we refused to stop trying. The sun set on New Busan, and across the galaxy, 1 trillion beings went about their lives in freedom. The authority was gone. The future was uncertain. But it was theirs to shape, and that, in the end, was everything.